The next morning, we went into UCLA and were all tested. Richard Fine called back later. We have to run the tests on Elizabeth and Jake again. And by then, we knew what that meant. It meant we had tested positive. In the fall of 1986, the doctors still had no answers. Naively, I thought we were ahead of the game, since none of us were sick or deteriorating. I felt that maybe if we could just stay strong, doctors would find a cure. We felt so alone. We felt no one would reach their hand out to us and make it better. We wished for an angel. An angel that would help us get through it all. But at that time, it seemed we had no angels watching over us. My daughter died from AIDS. My son's life hangs in the balance. Don't think we are unique. I know now what it feels like to live in a world that doesn't care. My psychological and emotional identification is with the have-nots, with a group of people who on the surface do not look like me. They are overwhelmingly poor, Black and Hispanic, and ignored. But my problems are their problems, and their problems are my problems. We live with the same pain, fear, loss, and sadness every day. The mother in the South Bronx who has to struggle with food and clothing and housing, I know I am fortunate not to face those issues. But Ari had food, clothes, and a house to live in, and it didn't save her life. What will save the life of Jake and every other child with AIDS is a world community that feels not only compassion, but responsibility for those who have less and those who need help. My family needs an America that is kinder and gentler to all, to poor people as well as rich. So, I use my access to pry open doors and make people care. Jake might die if I don't. I identify with the oppressed, but not as a victim. I was much more of a victim when I was just taking care of my family, trying to keep our lives normal and not taking risks. Becoming active in the fight against AIDS made me realize I'm not a victim. I have power and I can work for change. In March, Susan and I made another trip to the Capitol. We were becoming wise to the ways of Washington, but wisdom only gets you so far. It was time to make things happen. It was time to confront the FDA head on. We also had to meet with senators and congressmen on this trip and explain our concerns and our plan for making things better. Number one was basic research. Number two was the pediatric clinical drug trials. We were bringing up the issues relevant to drug testing and pediatric AIDS. Why couldn't we start testing drugs in children almost simultaneously with adults? Lives were at stake. The FDA had to pay attention to the kids as well. They couldn't just continue to do things the way they had been. AIDS demanded new rules. Those of us who had to fight AIDS had to do it on two fronts, medical and social. AIDS may one day cost me my life, but community reaction right away cost me the right to live my life the way I choose. That was my first fight. I made a choice, seemed like the only option. At least my life would have the potential of saving other lives. Everyone dies. The choice and challenge is in how we choose to live. And the more meaning you have in your life, the more reason you have to live. I want my life to change things, not my death.